Shalom, guys. Welcome back to another episode here at YASHAV Ministries, the Casa de Israel. Again, I thank you for being here. Like I always say, if you like the content that we have on our channel, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment section down below. With that being said, let's get started with this week's Torah portion. So, this week's Torah portion is VAYAKHEL and PEKUDEI, right? So there's two Torah portions. One is obviously starting with where we left off in chapter 25 to 31. And so it picks up now again, right? With the building of the tabernacle, it picks up back to the details of how it was going to be constructed again. And it talks about the people that were chosen again. It talks about the offering that was given, right? So it's a repetition from what we had already read. And so it's interesting that it does that. But more importantly, it also talks about a very important aspect of the purpose of the tabernacle, right? And so if you have been reading the Torah portions, right, from chapter 16 on till now, which will be chapter 35 through 40, you understand that there is a lot of elements that were incorporated into the tabernacle. Furnishings, the details, how were the fencing around the tabernacle, the fencing around the camp, the fencing that was going to protect the dwelling place, the altar of incense, the menorah, the table of showbread, the altar, the lid of the covenant, right, the altar of the covenant. And so there's a lot of details that were spoken about in this last couple of Torah portions. We were not able to cover every single part of the Torah portion just because that's why we have yearly studies and reviews, because we touch every detail that we can, right? So obviously for us, at least for the teachings that we're doing, or I'm doing for you guys, is understanding the basics right now, the whole reasoning for why there's a tabernacle, why there is a temple, right? In the most simplest way I can explain it without losing the essence, okay? So, the way I started this yearly Torah portion, like I said last week, creation, right? And so, the purpose of this closing part of Exodus, the book of Shemot, is going back to what creation was. So we saw that in the beginning there was chaos, there was a separation in which Elohim started creating and started putting everything on its place, right? He started giving light a function, started giving the moon, the stars, animals, the sea, right? Everything was having its function and its purpose. The same way, right? Israel was in chaos. They have been taken out of the chaos, right? Separated it from the chaos that was in the world in Egypt, and now they have been brought to the desert, to the wilderness, so that Elohim can start rebuilding them as a nation, so that they can bring order into the creation again. And so they will become the model, just like creation was in the beginning. And so now with the priest being chosen, with the details of the tabernacle, with the details of the elements that were going to be in the tabernacle, all of these intricate details are representations of what was in the beginning in the Garden of Eden, just more detailed for man to understand. Again, symbolism is very important. Those images that were given are representations of functions that were fulfilled in the tabernacle for connecting with Elohim. And so that's all that has been being detailed in these Torah portions. Again, to summarize, from Genesis 1 to Exodus 40 is Elohim, God, the Creator, trying to dwell among us again, right? And so these last Torah portions have been Him describing how He wants that dwelling place to be built, and what is going to be inside this dwelling place where He wants to live among us, right? Or abide among us, where His presence is going to be among us, and He will represent us here, right? And so this week's Torah portion starts off with chapter 35. Interestingly enough, just like in creation, Elohim rested. And so it starts off with this Torah portion. So I will torture you with my Hebrew reading, my slow Hebrew reading, and then we will get to English. It says, VAYAKHEL Moshe et Chal Adat Bnei Israel Vayomer Elochem Ele Hadevarim Asher Si'u Adonai Le'ashot Otam. Right? So that's the first verse, and we're going to read it in English. It says, Moses, VAYAKHEL, assembled all the congregation of the people of Israel and said to them, these are the things that the Lord commanded you to do. 6 days you shall be done, but on the 7th day you shall have Shabbat, to solemn rest, holy to the Lord. All right, so now this word here, it says holy. All right, let's study it real quick. It says holy. Something holy means holiness, offering, a holy area, a sanctuary, right? So the Shabbat is supposed to be a sacred space, something dedicated, separated for Elohim, not for mankind, not for Hebrew roots, not for Christianity, not for Judaism, is for Elohim, right? The text says that the Sabbath is a solemn rest to Elohim. So Shabbat is not about ourselves. Shabbat is about Elohim. Okay, so in Shabbat we do our best to honor him, to connect with him. And so it is a time where we have no excuse. We have 6 days of work, labor, go to school, we play sports, video games, whatever it is that you do in your free time. And so Elohim says, this day, I want you to dedicate it to me and demonstrate to the world that, yes, you do have 6 days to labor, but on the 7th day, you stop and recognize that the only reason why you're able to do what you're able to do, and the only reason why you're able to have fun and enjoy the time of life in the world, is because I am your creator and I have given you the access to do these things. And by us keeping the Sabbath and by us focusing on Elohim on the Sabbath, we say that he is the creator. Back in Genesis, we give Genesis a validity today. So whenever you keep the Sabbath, you say that Genesis, the first book of Genesis where Elohim rests, that moment in creation is true today, meaning that he's enthroned in the heavens as the creator. So it says here, controversial, says, you shall kindle no fire in all your dwelling places on the Sabbath day. Now, how do we keep this? Well, it's very complicated to pay attention to this command, to just its literal form. Obviously, there was a reason why in that time they didn't want it to be done, because it was work. It was to create fire. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of time. And so obviously you see in many, obviously Judaism doesn't believe that you can drive or turn on a light switch because you are creating fire. And so it might seem extreme, or that is something culturally that they do and believe in, and is respected. We cannot question or disrespect something that culturally they have maintained and has helped them honor Elohim. Now, I cannot tell you that is wrong, and I cannot tell you that that's what the command says for us today, but we do our best to honor the not kindling fire on Shabbat, but I cannot tell you that you are completely committing a sin for lighting a candle during Shabbat, okay? At least to my understanding. If I get more knowledge and information and I am wrong, I will change my position for sure. So it says here, Moses said to the congregation of the people of Israel, this is the thing that the Lord commanded. take from you a contribution to the Lord. Whoever is of a generous heart, let him bring to the Lord a contribution of gold, silver, bronze, blue, and purple, and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins and goat skins, acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, the onyx stones and the stones for setting, for the ephod, and for the breastpiece. Right. So these are details that we saw Torah portions before. Now, it's interesting because I have here again, like I always have, the book that we've been using, Sunder Van. And so it says that there is literal ways of writing. It says that it repeats, first of all, the structure and the details of how things are going to be built. And then it is explained how it came to be. So if at first Moses was giving how things were going to work, right? How things were going to build, who was going to build it, and what was going to take to do it. And now we're seeing a continuation of what happened and how it came to be when he brought the message to the people. Okay, so it says here, let every skillful craftsman come to you and do as the Lord commanded. The tabernacle is a tent, and it's covering the hooks. So these skillful men were able to fulfill the duties of building the tabernacle that we have already established. If you have not, please read the Torah portions from before and review this one. It says here, then all the congregation of the people of Israel departed from the presence of Moses, and they came, verse 21, everyone whose heart. So it says here that they came, everyone whose heart stirred him, right? Heart stirred him, and everyone whose spirit moved him, right? And brought the Lord contribution to be used for the tent of meeting and for all its services and for all holy garments. So they came, both men and women, all who were willing of heart, brought brooches and earrings and signet rings and armlets, all sorts of gold objects, every man dedicating an offering of gold to the Lord, and everyone who possessed blue and purple or scarlet yarns and fine linen or goat hair or tanned ram skins and goat skins brought them. Everyone who could make a contribution of silver and bronze brought it as the Lord contribution. And everyone who's possessed acacia wood and the use of it work, they brought it. And every skillful woman spun with her hands. They all brought what they had spun in blue and purple, scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen. All the women whose hearts stirred them to use their skill and spun goat's hair. Right? And so here we're starting to see that when Moses gave the instruction to the people, they immediately reacted, right? And so their action of service was from the heart, right? We keep seeing a repetition of from the heart, from the heart, from the heart. Everything that they did was intentionally with the purpose of honoring Elohim, of service to Elohim for their gratitude. They were grateful that Elohim saved them and took them out of the land of Egypt from bondage, and now he has given them from shame. He has given them honor. He has given them a name, a structure in which they will live, right? And they will have been given a king that is powerful, honorable, just, and righteous, and has order. And so here we see that from their hearts, they were willingly serving Elohim and giving their best. And so it says here, all the men and women and the people of Israel whose heart moved them to bring anything for the work of the Lord had commanded by Moses to be done, brought it as a free will offering to the Lord, right? So they gave everything they had, and then Moses said to the people of Israel, see, the Lord has called Bezalel, right? We saw that last week, the son of Uri, the son of Ur, from the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the spirit of Elohim, right? He was skilled, he was intelligent as well. So when he received the spirit of God, it just basically added to what he was, right? So his willingness to serve Elohim plus the spirit of Elohim complemented. And so it says here in the Spirit says, Spirit of God with skill, with intelligence, with knowledge, and with craftsmanship to devise artistic designs, to work in gold and silver and bronze, in cutting stones for setting, and carving wood for work in every skilled craft. And he has inspired him to teach both him and Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, from the tribe of Dan. He has filled them with the skills to do every sort of work done by an engraver, or by a designer, or by an embroider in blue and purple, scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen, or by a weaver, or by any sort of worksman or skilled designer. So, interesting here, the men that were chosen, right? It is cool because these people were doing things from the heart. Their intentions were to serve Elohim. And these men that were chosen had no personal gain, at least for what is described here. Right? It says that they were skilled. Elohim filled them with the Spirit, and they not only fulfilled their function, but at the same time, they were not afraid of sharing their knowledge and having those that maybe either wanted to help or that needed the tools and the guidance. They were willing to help those that wanted to be guided and directed. There was no selfishness in them by being chosen by Elohim, right? Everybody had a function, and everybody could help fulfill the purpose of Elohim in the camp, in what was established by Elohim, just in a hierarchy, in a order. And so I think it's cool that these men, even though they were filled with the Spirit of Elohim and they were chosen specifically, they did not use that as a amulet. They decided to help others and teach others so that they can help. And so it says here, Bezalel and Aholiab and every craftsman in whom the Lord had put his skill and intelligence to know how to do any work in the construction of the sanctuary shall work in accordance with all the Lord commanded, right? So everything has to be according to what Elohim says. It says, Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab, every craftsman whose mind the Lord had put skills, and everyone whose heart stirred him to do the work. And they received from Moses all the contribution that the people of Israel had brought for doing the work of the sanctuary, and they still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the craftsmen who were doing every sort of task on the sanctuary came, each from the task that he was doing. And he said to him, Moses, the people bring much more than enough for doing the work of the Lord has commanded us to do. So Moses gave command and word, and was proclaimed through the camp, let no man or woman do anything more for the contribution for the sanctuaries. The people were restrained from bringing, for the material they had was sufficient to do all the work and more, right? So here are the people we see that show a certain amount of gratitude, right, to the Lord, and we're bringing constantly, and there's a stop, and Moses and the leaders say, okay, we have too much, right? And the offering, the free will offering for the sanctuary that was used as the Lord commanded, Moses says, okay, that's enough. We don't need it that much, right? It's very rare to hear that in systems of religion right now. And it's sad that you never heard that before, right? It was more of give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more, for the purpose of Elohim. So we see here that the offering, especially in this context, had a purpose, had a role, and at the end of the day, it was for the function of the sanctuary and not for personal gain or use. Okay, keep that in mind. It says here now. We understand that, right? So here it talked about the priestly garments, the altar incense, the ark, the lampstand. It talked about details, right? In chapters 37, 38, 39, you get a lot of details that were used to build those artifacts that were in the sanctuary. We're not going to touch them today. Because with the mindset of Genesis, creation, and what I said, that the purpose of what's going on right now is to go back to that, understanding that the people were serving Elohim from their heart willingly. Here we see in chapter 40, it says, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, on the first day of the first month you shall erect the tabernacle of the tent of meeting, and you shall put in it the ark of the testimony, and you shall screen the ark with a veil, and you shall bring it to the table and arrange it, and you shall bring it in the lampstand and set its lamps, and you shall put the golden altar for the incense before the ark of the testimony, and set up the screen for the door of the tabernacle, and you shall set up the altar of burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle and the tent of meeting, and the place the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put the water in it, and you shall set up the court all around, and hang out the screen for the gate of the court. Then you shall take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and all is in it, and consecrate it in all its furnishes, so that it may become holy. And you shall also anoint the altar of burnt offering and all its utensils, consecrate the altar, so that the altar may become most holy. And you shall also anoint the basin in its stand and consecrate it. Then you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and you shall wash them with their water, and put Aaron in the holy garments, and you shall anoint him and consecrate him, that he may serve as a priest. You shall bring his sons, and also put coats on them, and anoint them as you anointed their father, and they may serve me as priests, and their anointing shall admit them to the perpetual priesthood on earth throughout the generations. This Moses did according to all the Lord commanded him. So he did in the first month of the second year, in the first month of the tabernacle was erected. Moses erected the tabernacle, and he laid his basis and set up his frames and put in the poles and raised up the pillars, and he spread the tent over the tabernacle and put the covering of the tent over it. And the Lord had commanded Moses. And he took the testimony and put it into the ark, and put the poles on the ark, and set the mercy seat on the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and set up the veil and the screen the ark of testimony, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Also, he put the table of the tent of meeting on the north side of the tabernacle, outside the veil, and arranged the bread on it before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he put the lampstand on the tent of meeting, opposite the table to the south side of the tabernacle, and set up the lamps before the Lord had commanded Moses. He put the golden altar on the tent of meeting before the veil, and the burnt fragrant incense on it. And the Lord had commanded Moses in place a screen door in the tabernacle, and he set the altar of burnt offering at the entrance of the tabernacle in the tent of meeting, and offer on it a burnt offering of grain offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, put water in it for washing, with which Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet. And when they went into the tent of meeting, and when they approached the altar, they washed as the Lord had Moses commanded. And as he erected the court around the tabernacle and the altar, and set up the screen and the gate of the court, so Moses finished the work. Now it says here, this is because now everything is in place just like it was in Genesis 1. Right? Everything was set up. Right? In the beginning, everything was set up, everything was in order. Now is when we understand how to deal with the presence of Elohim among us. Okay? It says here, then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, as Moses was not able to enter the tent of meeting because the cloud settled on it. And the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle through all their journeys Whenever the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the people of Israel would set out. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not set up until the day it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was on the tabernacle by day, and the fire was in by night in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. So here there's a big pause now, because everything is in order, tabernacle, however, everything is going to be established. But there's a big pause now, because we're going to go into VAYAKHEL. And VAYAKHEL tells us how we maneuver ourselves in the attentive meeting. Or better yet, how the priests and the high priest will maneuver themselves in the attentive meeting, and how they mediate for the people. And by us understanding this, we understand how Yeshua mediated for us in the heavenly abode. Next book, VAYAKHEL, we talk about the offerings, we talk about the Day of Atonement, we talk about a lot of things. It's very methodical, very detail oriented. How from the physical structure that was built, how the house was built, now we're going to understand how the spirit of Elohim dwells in the temple or in the tabernacle, and how we maintain Elohim's presence in the tabernacle. The purpose of the tabernacle was to take what Moses experienced in the top of the mountain in Mount Sinai, and that amazing appearance and connection for the people of Israel to have it mobile in the tabernacle every day. The only difference is that Aaron and Moses were the ones that were going to speak to Elohim, and from them the priests will minister, and then from them the people and the judges will interpret and live. It was an order, it was a hierarchy. But the purpose is to take Eden, the beginning, and what was manifested in the mountain, and bring it to the tabernacle, and teach me and you how God wants us to live in His presence. I'm going to do my best to teach you how Elohim wants us to guide our lives and our images in His presence. Elohim doesn't want us to create images to we worship like we learned last week. Elohim wants us to become His image in the world. And next book, we get to know how we make ourselves holy, and how He is holy, and how His holiness is not only supposed to be respected but revered. VAYAKHEL, He assembled. PEKUDEI, He accounted, right, the materials. That is what these week's Torah portions mean. Understand that we have to be willing to listen. Those are my favorite words for when I study the Torah. Listen, be open-minded. You don't know anything. Listen, this one Hebrew word misplaced can change the context of the story. So if you think you know something, trust me, you don't know nothing at all. So thank you for watching. Next week we start VAYAKHEL. In a couple of weeks, Pesach, and we start the biblical year of the feast. So thanks for watching. Have a great week. Shavua Tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.